Welcome to channel KT4, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. You can join in by sending in questions during the show. Just press the comments button on the screen. Don't forget to click the like or share buttons. If you're watching on YouTube, please click to subscribe to channel KT4. Please welcome my special guest, JohnPaul Wyndham, the director of the Brentwood Imperial Youth Band. Welcome, John.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Graham. What an entrance. A special guest, and I felt like I was on the news. So it was, I'm quite excited, actually. You've been the highlight. You're going to be the highlight of my day in lockdown.
Well, it makes a change from going for a walk, JohnPaul, I think.
I've done that already today, yeah, I must admit. Yeah, and my wife, she keeps giving me a list of things to do. And, yeah, I've painted a couple of walls today. So this is definitely the highlight. I'm looking forward to it. You're
so kind, JohnPaul. You're so kind. Well, I've got to tell you, your band has certainly made a global name for itself since it was formed in 1990. Can you tell me a little bit about how it came into being?
I've got a super dad. I mean, all dads are special, but my dad is very special. He didn't just say, let's do a football team. He said, let's start a bugle band. And 5 of us started in October, the first Wednesday in October in 1990. And then very shortly after that, Dad went and did an assembly at our local school, and we got 20 recruits, and that started the band off, and it grew and grew. We never had a set vision on how it was going to be. We was always looking to improve. Dad always had foresight, you know, it had to look right. When we was a bugle band to start off with, it was about being loud. We was either loud or louder. And then eventually, we decided to go over to becoming a wind band, and then we modelled ourselves on the British Army bands because they are who we aspire. All of our British military is who we aspire to be like, and we've kept pushing those boundaries forward. But what has remained the same over those 30 years are our core values, and that is to give young people a safe environment to develop musically and in life.
That's incredible, JohnPaul. I mean, it is a huge success story, and it's all about just being, getting people together and doing all those wonderful things. And I believe the band is a registered charity with a membership of just £1 a week. How do you make it work with the costs of all the instruments, the uniforms, and the upkeep of your wonderful rehearsal room?
Yeah, it's always been £1. That's £1 a week. We rehearse on a Monday and a Wednesday evening, and it's £1 whether you come on just one night or 2 nights. So it could equate to 25 pence an hour. And we have an open door. There's no experience, no music, no instruments required. There's no audition. Whoever walks through the door is who we work with, and we put them on a path, and we eventually find what musical instrument they're suited to, and we develop from there. And what a young person's doing is working towards their uniform. Once they're in uniform, then they're invited on every gig. Yeah.
And you also managed to, you've got a whole promotion system as well. So as people gain experience, you reward them by promoting them.
Yeah, we don't do that. We've you know, like I said in the beginning, we aspire to be as close as we can be to the army. So we go through a bandsman, lance corporal, corporal, sergeant, and once you're a sergeant in our band, you then become involved with the running and things like that. You know, you help to make the decisions because it's creating that unity, that teamwork, that discipline, the respect. It's all part of that unison. And if you can get young people, the energy that young people have is just so inspiring. I love working with young people and old people. It's great working with you, Graham. I love it.
Thanks very much indeed.
No problem.
I think one of the great things, though, of course, this is all about music. So you're getting all these children together. They're learning so many wonderful things, like they're learning about how to support their friends in performance, which is part of the building blocks of life. And also you're working hard so you don't let the team down. These are all great things for young adults to be aspiring to. I think it's marvelous what you're doing. But of course, the end result of this is all about the band getting out of the rehearsal room and performing. Now, I'd love it if you could tell me about some of the great events. I know you've done some wonderful things. So tell me a little bit about some of the events that you performed at.
Well, we're always being asked to do band gigs before where we are currently. Every week we would get asked, and we're very selective because we like to work towards an event and the build up. I mean, off the top of my head, we did the Queen's birthday parade, a tea party in 2016. That was a very difficult gig to do. The year before, we'd been to Russia, to Moscow, performed on Red Square, and that was easier to organise logistically than it was to go to the Mall.
Okay, JohnPaul, sorry to interrupt you. Can I just let's get a picture up? Don't worry. Let's get a picture.
You're going to surprise me.
This is what a picture this is. This is the Mall with Admiralty Arch behind you. Tell me something about this gig.
Yeah, this was for Waterloo 200. I don't think it's celebrating 200 years since the Battle of Waterloo, obviously, but commemorating, and we got to march up the Mall. It was after this photo was taken that we started printing canvas prints of our big achievement gigs, and we put those around the band room because this is quite special. And on a tour, when a young person comes through our front door, we come to that photograph in our band room, and I always say, do you know which street this is and what we're marching to? And sometimes they get it. Yeah, sometimes they get it. And it was it's always great. I mean, that is, particularly with the flags, our Union flags, it was a cracking gig. Yeah.
Yeah, it was indeed. I remember the occasion well. But also, you played at some of the biggest venues in the UK. And here's one.
That was a very, very special gig. We was associate members of the Royal British Legion, and they asked if the Royal British Legion asked if we would take part in the Festival of Remembrance itself, which went out live, and we did. And that was in 1996, I think, and it was brilliant. Everybody was involved with that, and it was a fabulous experience. That's my brother there as well. That was one of the iconic moments. My brother on the drum major, Mace, and that's on our alumni page because obviously it's a long time ago now. That's one everyone talks about. In fact, there's 3 people that was in that band, 4 people that have come back to band and help out now with their own children, which is a brilliant thing to have, to see second generation of people coming into band. Yeah.
But can I let you into a little secret here, JohnPaul, that you may not know? I'm sure you wouldn't know this, but in 1972, I was a trombone player in the junior musicians troupe Royal Artillery.
Wow.
And that would have placed me at 15 years old. And we played as the warm-up band for the Festival of Remembrance of the Royal Albert Hall. I'll never forget that gig. So I can imagine all your members that were a part of that band, it's a day that they would never forget.
Yeah, it was a great, and the people we saw, I mean, it was the Garrison Sergeant Major Perry Munson. I mean, what a legend that guy was. He is. I mean,
of course, he's a culture.
He was the smartest man I've ever seen wear a suit. He was incredible, and it was such an honour for me to be around the military. You know, we're only amateurs. We're not paid. You know, we're all voluntary. We've got a fantastic support team of volunteers, and we're just always pushing our own love of it as best we can.
Yeah, well, of course, Perry Mason was a tremendous Coldstreamer.
Oh, absolutely wonderful.
Smartest man ever. I've got another picture for you. JohnPaul. Tell me something about this one.
That was when we went to the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena, Los Angeles. It's a 6-mile march, and it is the biggest parade in the world. It's on New Year's Day, so lots of people spend the night before camping out, and you pass over that 6 miles 1.5 million people. And at this point, actually marching down the hill, you do one corner, and it's TV corner. And at that point, supposedly the TV viewing figures are over 500 million people. And that was great. There was 100 of us on that. And for a lot of people, it was the first time they'd ever been on an aeroplane. I mean, now, okay, not at the moment, but now people generally go on a plane. But for that trip, it was brilliant. And that was one, my dad, he instigated that. We had to raise a lot of money because we're very inclusive. You know, it's not about, the band very rarely has to pay for things itself. It's all about fundraising outside with our support teams and giving young people an opportunity. Because when you go abroad, or any trip abroad, or any trip even in this country, it's that's when you become together a tight group, isn't it? When you're experiencing those unique moments in time.
Yeah, I can imagine. But then you've also been to quite a few diverse countries as well. I think you've been to Switzerland, definitely.
Yeah.
Germany, I think.
Yeah, we've been all over. Last year we was in Canada. That possibly is the prettiest place I've ever been to, British Columbia. Got my T-shirt on here. We always, funny that you say about Switzerland. We was in Zurich in 2012, and that was our first big military tattoo that we was involved with. And now it was started the tradition of having a tour T-shirt, and now we make sure we always get either make our own tour T-shirts or we get one on site, because it's always good after the event, young people coming to band and you seeing those T-shirts being worn. But
that's quite
the incredible place we went to, I'd say incredible, was Liechtenstein in 2016. Not many people can say they've performed there. And when there was 60 of us that spent 2 nights in a bomb shelter. And 2 nights was as long as you wanted to, long enough to stay in a bomb shelter. Yeah. But brilliant, all good fun.
I can imagine. Right. Okay. I think one of the great gigs that you've done, and you've now done it twice. I'm going to show you the picture so everybody can see it, because it is probably one of the most incredible pictures going. Yeah. What a sight that is. And that's Red Square, I know, in Moscow. But I'm going to tell all the listeners now that I remember the first time you went, you just kind of like went for the weekend, and you kind of like with a guest for a long weekend, and your band members went to school on Monday morning, and the teachers could say, well, what did you do this weekend? And your guys could say, well, I went and performed on Red Square. I mean, absolutely amazing. Here's a picture of the band in Red Square, which is amazing. And here's another one. What a picture that is. Yeah. All right, come on, tell me something about this wonderful experience.
Well, Moscow, we was very fortunate to be asked in 2015 to be part of this, the Moscow, the International Military Music Festival, Spasskaya Tower. Spasskaya Tower is to the right of this photo, and it is their clock tower. And we replaced the Japanese band that went home, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. And it was great. And then 3 years later, they asked us to go back, and we did 12 nights on Red Square to 6,500 people there each night. It's something we worked very hard toward. You can't repeat, but you have to do everything new, and it's trying to encapsulate being British. And it was brilliant. This photo here is one of 1,000 that the Moscow. The cast is 1,500 people, and they have a support network, a production team of 1,000 people. And it's all about making it as good as it can be. So in 2015, they asked, was you happy with X, Y, and Z? How could we improve it? When we went back in 2018, all of those things had been done. And they took over 1,000 photos of the band, and they gave us 100. And that's one of the 100 that we've got. And it was brilliant.
Amazing. That is absolutely quite amazing. And you know something, JohnPaul? I've managed to find a little clip that's been put together especially for this show.
That's
so I think it's okay us talking about it, but I think we all want to see some of it. So here's a short clip of the Brentwood Imperial Youth Band performing on Red Square.
Марш Радецкого Иоганна Штрауса завершает выступление Имперского юношеского оркестра города Брентвуд, Великобритания.
That actually made the hairs on my arms go a bit funny there. And you could sense, hopefully, you know, during the drums tattoo that we was doing, halfway through it, everyone started clapping and applauding. Yep. The energy and the vibrancy was amazing. And as an amateur performers, which we all are, you know, we're teaching young people, suddenly to have that energy, because you do feel the vibe, the energy from the audience, and it can be quite intense at times, but it was very much a buzz. That was a terrific buzzing feeling, yeah.
It was, and I have to say, you know, as a professional musician, I've got to say that performance, that band on that day sounded absolutely incredible, and could equal any professional band that was that you could see on a tattoo. You know, congratulations to you and all the team for that. But you know, going on tour is, yes, it's about performance, but it's also about culture. It's about meeting people, particularly when you go to somewhere like Moscow. People realize suddenly that Muscovites are actually pretty similar to us. But you also get the opportunity to go and do some little tours and go and visit. Tell me something about this picture that I've got coming up now.
Oh, that was when we went in 2018. You showed the video of 2015. 2018 was a very good band that went, and we was there for just under 2 weeks. It was very important that we did cultural visits and we filled the band's time as best as we could. And obviously in 2018 was the World Championship football championships, and that's where the World Cup final was, literally 2 months before we was there. And we asked the organisers if we could have a tour there, and we had a behind the scenes tour that no one had ever experienced or had there. And we actually got to see where President Putin himself sits, and I actually sat in his chair. And it was brilliant, actually. It was a real one of those. I've got a lovely photo of my dad and me and my daughter there, with which one of the photographers took, and it was very, very special at the Zhniki Stadium.
No, absolutely amazing. But you know, it's not all about a marching band as well, because you've done some other incredible things. I'm going to show you another picture, and I want you to tell me something about this, because this is out of my scope here now, and it's a group called, I think you call it The Script.
Oh,
what's all this about?
Oh, that was an amazing trip. So what happens is, it's a massive responsibility taking young people on any day trip, let alone, you know, any event. And where possible, we like to do a recce to make sure the organisers are happy. And Dad and I was up in Rushden. We was actually on our way back from Rushden in Northamptonshire, and the phone call went on the Bluetooth, and it was the manager of the band, The Script, asking if we could perform with them on the Friday at the O2. At which point my dad's going, no, we don't want to get involved, you know. But I realised The Script is a very big band. I realised the O2, and let's see if we can make this happen. So we agreed. I was trying to get as much information as we could. We agreed a price because, funding, we're not funded by anybody. The events we do pays for us to be able to keep band at £1 a week. It costs £10,000 a year to keep our front door open with all of the expenses that we have, and we get that through donations. So I pitched it at what I thought was a sensible donation, and he came back and he said he would come back in 15 minutes to confirm whether that was possible. I, in the meantime, put out on our Facebook group page for the band members themselves who's available for a gig on Friday night. I didn't say what it was for, and and he then phoned up the guy from the script to say, yes, that's great. I asked him about the music, and he said that one of the guys would phone me up, and it went forward. And then after, I worked out how many people we needed, and I then told the lucky 35 that they was going to play at the O2 with the script, at which point everyone that said they wasn't available was available. And what was also so incredible about that was, so we're working towards a young person as they come through the front door getting their band uniform, and that can take either 2 months or 2 years, but once you get your uniform, you are capable of doing anything. And this one girl in the band, it was her very first gig, and I had every confidence that she would be okay, and she was. And we arrived there wearing our shirt, blazers and ties. We marched out, and the band was singing. They was doing a rehearsal to an empty auditorium. We ran through it just twice. We then went back to our dressing room, and we had a load of ice turn up. And I said, what is this? They said, the ice. I said, no, we didn't want any. It's not for us. And he said, no, sir. With every drink you have, you must have ice, because there was already Coca-Cola things in there. And the script was so impressed. They all bought everyone a Nando's before we started. And then we got the 5-minute call, because we did a one number with them. And that was the most insane 3 minutes I've ever experienced with the band. Suddenly half of us went on the stage, half of us came marching through, and it was so electric. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I think we all wish we could have gone on tour with the script. But all credit to the girl, that was a very, very first public performance, marching in front of 20,000 screaming people.
Yeah. I have to say, I remember whilst I was, the director of music of the Coldstream Guards, we were asked to go and perform at Wembley for Live 8.
Wow.
And we opened it with a bank of fanfare trumpets, and I walked out onto the stage, conducted it. The place went wild, and as we're walking off, there's Paul McCartney walking on. I mean, it was quite something special. Look, let's now talk about something else to do with what the band's involved in, and let's go back to Brentwood, back to the rehearsal rooms.
Yeah.
Like, it's now developed an education structure within the band in the form of BTEC Level 2 in musical performance.
Yeah, that's right.
And by whom?
Well, we was contacted by a charity called the CVQO 6 years ago now, asking if this is something we would like to partake in. So my next question was, well, yes, that sounds great, but how much is it going to cost? And he said, nothing at all, but you must undertake it and complete it all. And we're now on our 6th year of doing this, and it means that those people that are post GCSEs now, for their £1 a week, so 16 and above, can get this professional music qualification, which is the equivalent of a GCSE. And it's brilliant, actually. We have 2 mums that help out. In fact, one of the mums hasn't got any children in the band, but she still comes up every other week, and she works very closely with each cohort. And this year was our largest cohort, I think, of 16 people. We are the only youth group that's an independent youth group to offer this. And it's quite an achievement, really. And the band, the last thing we want to do is people come to band and go back into studies. But the ladies make it very enjoyable. They have to give presentations. And why it's also good is they have to help organise an event. So for me as a director or a manager, once you talk to them about the things that are involved, because up until that point, they've just turned up, put their uniform on, done the gig, got on the coach and gone home. Where from then they start thinking about things differently, and the things that are involved in making any performance happen, because it's not easy getting a band on the road to perform. There's so many things you have to do.
See, but I remember with the BTEC, you kindly invited me along to one of your Christmas concerts and asked me to present the awards. Here's a little picture of that.
Oh, that's great.
I remember that with a lot of pride.
Yeah. So that photo there, for instance, I'm looking at that, and in some ways it makes me quite sad, because a lot of those people, how many people there? 9. A large portion of those will be going off to university this year, which is a shame. It's just a shame. But that's, ours is a constant cycle. That's why we must always have young people starting off. Imagine everyone's on a different ladder. And, it takes time, doesn't it, to reach that peak? But yeah,
absolutely. I'm afraid, JohnPaul, I'm going to have to talk about COVID-19. This must had a massive impact on your planned 2020 program. Tell me how it's impacted.
We finished the Christmas concerts are our what we work toward, and that's our biggest primary fundraiser. And in 2019, we had a fantastic Christmas concert. We was all buzzing. We started the new year. We had a very, very good year this year planned. 2020 was our 30th anniversary. We had a tattoo planned. We had bands from Northern Ireland, from America, from the Netherlands. We had professional bands coming to perform with us in Brentwood, just purely coming for our own celebratory party. Where else was we going? We was going to Moscow. How can I forget Moscow? Only recently we've had to withdraw from there, because it was the 75th anniversary since the ending of World War II. They really wanted us there this year, and we had possibly the best band ever about to go on tour. And unfortunately, none of us expected on March the 16th, as we left the band room on that Monday evening, that was going to be our last band practice for the foreseeable future. But the band, in every situation, individuals come to light, and very quickly after a couple of weeks, people in the band started tackling different projects. One of those was our colour sergeant, Chris Secular. He set up a Band's Got Talent. So like a Britain's Got Talent, a Band's Got Talent. And what he did was you had to enter and send him a video, and each night we all voted on who was the best. And what was so good was I didn't realise we had so many guitarists, violinists, singers, pianists, magicians within our group. And the winning act was an incredible one of these people that could throw things, and it would do some somersault. It was brilliant, and it was all the young people getting really involved. Yeah, that was cracking. I don't want to keep talking too long, but there was lots of things that have been involved in the lockdown. Very interactive things. Moscow asked the funniest thing was Moscow, or the Muscovites, have visions of everyone eating porridge for breakfast. So, do you have porridge for breakfast?
No, I don't actually.
But it's funny, I do. So I was quite shocked when it did make me laugh, and they wanted videos of us eating porridge, which someone in the band, one of the sergeants, he took it on and he edited it, and we sent it off to them, and it went on to their social networking. There was a loo roll phenomenon where people are throwing a loo roll in and out, and it was all edited together. Another chap took that on, another sergeant, and it's brilliant, really, really good stuff. But we're looking forward to getting back to band. We had one Zoom meeting, but it was a bit of a disaster actually. Everyone was excited to seeing each other, so we haven't gone to a Zoom practice, but we've had it for instructors meetings and band trustees meeting, because it's now about getting back to band. That's what we're now concentrating on, is when we can get back to band.
Yeah, and I'm quite interested to hear from you about how you are going to, with all this social distancing. I've had some clips from Sweden. It came in. There's a military quintet there, and they social distance, and they've been putting out a video every week of different performances. So it's quite interesting to see how people are getting around this. But I mean, you've got a really great rehearsal room, but you've got 100 in your band. I mean, how are you going to bring this back in?
Yeah, I mean, before we had the lockdown, we had 105 plus each night for the whole of January and February. It was, really, really rocking and rolling. We have got great facilities that Dad, he realised 15 or more than 15 years ago that we had to have our own premises to survive and move forward. You know, school rents were going up. And 15 years ago, we took over an old derelict football club, and we've just expanded. And 5 years ago, we built our own concert hall on the back of that, which is a fabulous hall. And we've been up to band, a few of us, and we've laid out as big a band space as we can. And if we allow 2 meters around every person, we can sit down a band of 35. So our intention is when, as soon as we're allowed to meet more of us, that we will go to band not once, twice, but 3 times a week. And we will have a separate group each night. Some may overlap. And as soon as we can get outside. And that actually will be quite a good thing, because then no one will be able to hide. So what's so frightening about the COVID is that as a band, we never stop practicing. We never stop rehearsing. The only time we stop rehearsing is 2 weeks over Christmas. So during our school holidays, we continue. But naturally, people are on their own holidays. So we have, over those 6 weeks, we have different bands. But when they all come together at the end of the 6 weeks, wow. And I really hope that when we go back on each separate nights, everyone works very hard. So when we all come together again, you know, we mustard.
Here's a nice picture of rehearsing. And
she's a lovely girl, that Petra. She's a very quiet girl, and she just is one that can take everything in her stride. And she's won actually a few awards, within the band. She's a very, very nice girl, and one that's because it's not necessarily about our best players now. It's about those ones underneath, like Petra that was in that photograph. It's them we've got to keep pushing, because in 2 years' time, she will be the star of the band.
Yeah, I was going to say, JohnPaul, what's your aspirations now for the future? Of course, I think the first aspiration is going to be get the guys back together and start rehearsal, because that's going to take a while. But you know, what's the 2-year plan?
The 2 year, well, unfortunately, it's 2020 is going to be known as the big gap year, isn't it? And we certainly, hopefully, will be doing our own tattoo again next year. I do hope that we get invited back to Moscow. You know, the Spasskaya Tower gig is the best gig in the world. I can't speak any more highly of it, and the organisers and the organisation, and hopefully we will go back there one day. But who knows? You know, it's keeping the band. You know, I coined a phrase from the British Army when they put their bands out as multi-capable bands, and that's what we are. You know, we're teaching young people not just how to play an instrument, but all the different associated musical genres that's involved. So whether that's a concert band, whether that's a marching band, whether that's a fanfare team, and it's keeping that coming through and keeping the education and getting young people to experience performing, because it is wonderful.
It is, and I think some of your aspiration is to try and hopefully, you know, Remembrance Day and be a part of that, and of course planning for the Christmas concert, because that's, you know, it's a highlight of the year. All the families come in. Do you know something? I've got a little clip. Do you mind if I show it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Now, musically, that is a disastrous piece. But when you put it in context of the various pieces we was playing, that's the big shock factor of why that piece was so good. And that's one of the sort of party pieces the band still play after in a tattoo party. You know, whenever all the bands are having a little gym jam, and that's one of those ones there. But I saw the drums actually. It is such a shame. We spent 2 years working with the British Drum Company and with William Moulin of the Music Supplies, doing the artwork for the new drums. And in January of this year, we received our new drums from Stuart Warmington and the British Drum Company, and they look fantastic. Unfortunately, we haven't used them yet, and it's such a shame because this year those are going to be shown all over the world. But hopefully, it won't be too long. And you said Remembrance Day. For us, it doesn't matter what gigs, wherever we are in the world, Remembrance Day is always the most important day of the year for us. And that's the band going on parade for an hour and a half. Because from saying go till we finish, say dismissed. And there's a lot of different type of music we have to play there. So when we get back, we'll be starting to... I already know what we're going to be playing on Remembrance Day. We'll be marching off first to the cracking march, Bond of Friendship, actually. Brilliant. What a great march.
Do you know something, John Paul? Sadly, I don't know where the time has gone, but we're running out of time and we're having such a good chat. You were saying about them having a crack after the show. Do stay online and we'll have a little chat. Because I'd love to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, lovely.
Don't run away from me when we end the broadcast. But John Paul, thank you for calling into my virtual studio today. It's such a pleasure chatting with you. Please pass on my real kindest regards to everyone involved with the band. And let's hope we can all get together as soon as possible to make music once more and get your wonderful team to get carrying on with the great work that you all do. I'm so proud of you all. Keep it all up, and we'll get through this. And I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. So, John Paul, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All the very best. Bye-bye.
Absolute pleasure. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, coming up next Thursday, a new adventure. Did you hear that right? You did. A new adventure. Because I'm going to spend the summer months traveling across Europe to visit my many friends involved in military and community bands. Virtually, of course. My journey starts in Paris, France, where I'll meet up with my dear friend, the saxophonist Michael Supra. There he is, who trained at the National Conservatory in Paris and is the buffet crampon artist. So come and join me next Thursday at 5 p.m. when we'll have a visit to Paris and we'll meet up with the wonderful Michael Supra. Until then, stay alert and stay safe.